everyone, and welcome to the Fishhead Creations podcast, where I pull out one of my interesting knitting projects every time and talk you through the details. My name is Anna. You can find me as Obsti on Ravelry and as Caledoniana on Instagram. My god, I should know this by now. Well, you can find me as Obsti on Ravelry and as Caledoniana on Instagram. And as always, I'd really like to hear from you. I always like to talk about knitting to everyone who will listen. And I really like to get a conversation started. So today's project, which you will have seen in the intro already, is absolutely out of my comfort zone just because it's bright red, completely bright red. But I thought, well, I had the yarn, and it was enough for a whole garment, so I wanted one. As I might have mentioned in one of the previous episodes, I recently inherited the stash of a friend's late mother, who passed away in the beginning of the year, and they just got around to sorting out her stuff. And because no one of those in the family left behind is a knitter, they asked me if I was interested in all her old knitting magazines, her knitting machine, which I will set up on the weekend, and also her yarn stash, which was 2 large trash bags full of, well, lots of cotton I'm not too interested in, some Letlopi, and, among other things, 12 balls of a superwash DK weight, or heavy DK to worsted weight, I'd say, bright red, 100% wool. Those 12 balls amounted to just under 1,000 meters, so I thought I could get a sweater out of it, but I expected to play serious yarn chicken, which influenced the construction of the sweater. Turns out I only needed 9 of those 12 balls, so I have a few left over. And I have a new idea of how much yarn I actually need for a sweater, so that was quite a good learning experience. But also I have this sweater, which I'm calling my Christmas sweater because it's just where I plan to wear it for the first time, but really it just works for every occasion. I just need to get around to accepting wearing bright red on a usual occasion. So this is completely my own design. I knew I wanted a cardigan because I only have one, which you've seen in the epistrophe episode, and that's not a great fit. So I wanted a cardigan that actually fits me, and I decided I liked the fabric I got when I knit this yarn on 5mm needles. So that's what I did for the main body, and then I went down to 4mm, so quite significantly smaller, for the ribbing and the button bands. And I based my numbers, my stitch count, on the flex pattern by Tin Can Knits, which is a pullover pattern. So what I did was divide the stitches evenly between front and back, which the pattern calls for because it doesn't have any shaping at all, and then took out 4 stitches for each front because I knew I wanted a wide button band. So the front originally had 8 stitches less than the back, and I just knitted bottom up just because I prefer bottom up, and I prefer the look of decreases in the raglan to increases. So, which is why I did decide to do it bottom up. So I started the body bottom up, and then I just went to knittingfool.com, which is an online stitch dictionary, and looked at some lace panels because I knew I wanted one on each side of the button band, and just picked out one that would fit the width of my cardigan, so it would take up a large portion of the front but not disappear under the arms. So for each of the fronts I had around 40 stitches, and this lace panel I think was 28 stitches wide, maybe only 20, something around that area. So it took up a large portion of the front. Must have been 40 stitches and just 20 or so. It's a nice decent size, but it doesn't take up the whole front and doesn't disappear under the arms. And what I was quite happy with is how it worked in the decrease line here, because this last line where I stopped doing the lace is exactly parallel to the raglan decreases, which I didn't plan for. I just started knitting, but I think it worked out quite well. what I then did, because I didn't know how much yarn I had, was when I reached the underarm, I just cast on provisionally for the arms and put them on the same needle. So I started the arms from here, the sleeves, knit upwards, did all the raglan decreases, then did a few short rows. So it's not because I'm holding it wrong that it's higher on the back, but it's because I did a few short rows. So I did 2 more raglan decreases in the back than I did in the front. And then, yeah, just a little bit of ribbing and bound off again. And it's not a stretchy bind off, so I wanted a rather sturdy neckline. And I'm very happy I did, because when I was blocking it, when I was done blocking it, it grew a lot because it's superwash, and the neckline is already quite wide. So if it were even stretchier than it is, it would just slide off my shoulders, which is an issue I have with several sweaters I based on the flax. I should have remembered that and just decreased further down, but I didn't. So it's quite a wide neckline. But I assume I'll just wear a shawl with it anyway, and mostly wear it inside. So it should be fine. And I don't know what this business is all about, but we'll get to that. So when I had finished the decreases on top, I think I first went ahead and picked up for the button bands. So I just knit every stitch here. And I went ahead with 4mm needles again, the same size I used for the ribbing, and picked up 1 stitch for every 2 rows. So quite a high ratio, or low ratio. Is it high or low? Well, 50% of the rows I picked up a stitch for, and just knit 1 by 1 ribbing. Quite wide, as I said. And I did the button band, the buttonholes around 1/3 of the width. So I think on the 6th row of ribbing I did the buttonholes, and it's 14 rows wide in total. So they are just a little further in, and I also sewed the buttons on the other side a little further in, so if it stretches when I'm wearing it, it will not gape, I hope. That's my plan anyway. And as you can see, the body does have some waist shaping. I think I decreased down 16 stitches and then increased them again. I just prefer some shaping in my garments, just because I'm changing so much between sizes. I have a quite narrow waist in relation to my bust measurement, and narrow shoulders, which is why every time I'm doing too wide a neckline it will just slide off. And then I just have quite wide hips, so one of the reasons I do the waist shaping quite far down is because I have a very long torso and then just suddenly very wide hips. And at this proportion it should fit me quite well. Then I went ahead and picked up the stitches again. I had put some on hold when I was casting on provisionally, so I picked those up and picked up my provisional cast on and then knit the sleeves top down, just so I could make sure I used, I made them as long as possible with the yarn I had, because I was afraid I'd run out and have to do 3/4 sleeves or something, which I don't like. I've talked about that issue a lot. I want my sleeves to be nice and cozy and cover my hands. And they were alright when I stopped knitting them, and I had enough yarn left that I thought I could just go back and lengthen them if I didn't like them, but I knew it was superwash, and I'm quite happy with the length I stopped at, because this way they are nice and long and cozy, so they do totally cover my hands. And if I had made them any longer, this is almost how they will fit. If I had made them any longer, they would just be too long. So they're actually quite the perfect length. So yeah, then I washed it and blocked it and just pinned it down, which caused this weird bobble in the back, just because I had a pin through there. And what it didn't really help with is the button band falling down at the top, but I just should have put the topmost buttonhole further up. I tried to do a line of crochet on the top, just to make it a little more sturdy, but I think I might just have to make a tiny hidden clasp here so I can put those two ends together. And at least it's quite a straight line. The button side is just very curly, but it's hidden most of the time, so I don't worry too much about it. What I really like about this cardigan are the buttons. Because the yarn was free and I didn't use a pattern, so essentially it didn't cost me anything up to the point where I needed buttons. I decided I would just go ahead and get some really nice buttons. And we have one sewing shop here in town, which it's an independent shop. They have 2 stores in 2 different locations, but they are just completely independent of any chains or anything. And they have a very nice selection of both quilting cottons and just baby sewing stuff, and also decorative home fabrics and buttons. So I spent quite a while in that store looking at buttons, and I figured I'd rather, well, I either wanted red ones, but I didn't bring the cardigan with me, so I couldn't check if the red would fit, or I wanted silver ones. I didn't want black ones because I just feel it would have been too much of a Santa cardigan at that point. So yeah, I think the silver ones are quite festive in their own right, because I really wanted this to be a Christmas sweater. But they also are neutral enough to work throughout the year. So these are just metal buttons, silver colored, just slightly aged, slightly distressed, and I really like how they look on this. So overall, it was a very quick knit on such large needles. It's a quite loose gauge for this, but as I said, I will mainly be wearing it inside for Christmas, so I should be fine. And if I go outside, I can always put on another layer in between or something. Just one of my hot stone, very lightweight sweaters in between or under it should fit just fine. And because it's superwash, it's not too warm anyway, so it's not a very cold weather outside wear cardigan. So the loose gauge should just work fine. So yeah, I really look forward to wearing this cardigan on Christmas and to see the reactions of my boyfriend's family, who still don't really believe in my knitting also. I'm not sure. They can be strange, but they usually admire what I'm knitting, so I look forward to presenting this one I designed myself. On that note, I wish you all a very happy festival season, holiday season, festive season. This will be my last podcast of the year, because on Wednesday next week we will be traveling a lot, and I won't have the house or the flat for myself to film anyway. So I will be back sometime in the next year, I hope on the first Wednesday, but I don't know yet. So have a very happy holiday season, whether you celebrate Christmas or anything else, or just have a few days of work. Enjoy those. And I will see you very soon. Bye!